Hi everyone, welcome back to the Rangers Reviews post-match briefing. Myself and Chris Jack here to look back at Rangers 3, Livingston 0 in the Scottish Premiership. A good day for Rangers all around, who managed to cut the gap at the top of the Scottish Premiership. If they win their game in hand next week, then they can go joint top after Celtic obviously dropped points away at Aberdeen earlier in the day. Routine, Livingston didn't have a attempted shot, let alone a shot on target. Very much an attack versus defence drill. But I think, Chris, to try and sum it up, naturally there's going to be some nerves because Rangers need to capitalise on what happened, and they've not always been great at capitalising. But I thought what summed it up well was what Clement just said in the press conference, where he said it's a joy to play in this stadium at the moment. He compares it to the first few months when there was first few weeks. He's only been here a few months of his tenure, when he was speaking about a nervousness that existed then within the stadium and has now been, he feels, replaced with a real synergy and with a real belief. And I think that's probably the word that sums up today, Chris. There's a long way to go. Rangers have already been in a title race but before this, and certainly Clement, knowing that I don't think will get ahead of themselves when discussing it, because there's a lot of games to be won. Clement spoke very specifically about Rangers only focusing on themselves. The fact that the league table effectively does not matter until May. You can't ignore the optics, and the optics today for Rangers were good, and it did feel within the stadium, I thought, for a routine win at home against Livingston, it felt like there is a real belief building under this manager that Rangers can go and do something.
I think arguably that's one of the manager's biggest achievements so far. Now, we've spoken about the individual improvement. There's also a huge collective improvement in terms of the team. But he spoke about that relationship, that synergy, as he called it, his first days, his first weeks, and so far it's been perfect since that. There's been very, very few times where people have been questioning his decisions or things that he's been doing. Yes, there's been criticism of individual players. There's also unhappiness at the Old Firm defeat. People were frustrated after the game up at Aberdeen. It's not been perfect in terms of results, but overall, you'll find very, very few people who say Philippe Clement is not the right man to be Rangers manager right now, and that's, we consider where Rangers were, and you think back to the Aberdeen game, obviously, Michael Beale lost his job. The disconnect between the guys on the pitch and the people on the stands was huge at that time. Nobody would have believed that Rangers just a few weeks later would be potential champions. Now, as you say, a long, long way to go. Nobody can get overexcited. Nobody should be booking open-top buses, and nobody should be going and buying champagne. There's a lot of hard work for Rangers to do, but they'll give themselves a chance, and that's all the manager could have done. He sat in the blue room behind us just a couple of months ago. The gap was 7 points. Nobody would have thought that at this stage, the game in hand, that it would be no Rangers would have this. They would have this chance. So no, it's all credit to the manager, all credit to the players that managed to get themselves in this position. But the fans around about here are old enough and wise enough to know that there's many twists and turns to come in title races.
No, you're right. I think that the big task for Clement was trying to build belief. It was a broken picture that he inherited, and even if you think to the Hearts game, and you're right, it's not as if we're speaking in an achievement as being anything's happened. Rangers are just in a title race. That the belief is back, and I think that's what the manager was speaking about in his press conference just there. And there's potential for this season, and again, that's something that felt very far away a few months ago. But let's talk about the game, Chris. Rangers 3-0, good value for it. It was a bit nervy at points. They had a few chances in the first few minutes. Livingston very, very deep. Even there was a moment where Rangers only had 10 men on the pitch when Leon Balogun, who has I believe he's broken something in his face, is what Clement said, which does not sound pleasant. He was off the pitch when he came off, and John Suter wasn't quite on. And Livingston had 10 players, and they still didn't even press the ball. There was no real, and that's not necessarily critical because they're trying to get a result. But it was very much an attack versus defence drill today. Let's start with Fabio Silva. He's been told he's not a number 9 a lot. We spoke about it. I thought he was good today. There's a lot to his game, his movement. I thought his pressing. Yes, he was involved outside the box a lot, but he scored a bit of a poacher's goal as well. I think what's clear, Chris, is that we'll touch on this in the piece tomorrow on the website. Whatever type of player Fabio Silva is, he's a good player. Rangers have a good player here. He had 2 good loan spells last season. A lot of money's been spent on him for a reason. I think it was 16 goals he had across all competitions last season, so it's not as if he doesn't know where the back of the net is. But I thought it was a good day for him and important for him to get that goal at a really important time in the game for Rangers.
This chat over Silva and number 9, it's almost like people wanted to know what other what other profile, what other type of player did Rangers, did fans want Rangers to sign? They're not going to go and get a guy that only sits in the 6-yard box, because that's not the way the team go. They're not going to go and sign a big target man you just get fire balls at, because again, that's not the way the manager sets the team up. This thing will need a number 9. That is Fabio Silva. That's why he was brought here. The manager said in his first press conference after he signed him, he's here to play that role. He's going to play through the middle. Yes, he's clearly got the quality. He could play a line deeper. He can maybe play slightly wider. He could play as a 2, because I think he's got that. I think he's got that in his locker as well. The manager said he's here to be the main focal point of the attack. He's going to play through in the middle, and he backed him to score goals. I think, as we said pre-match, I think he needed the goal today. Now it seems a bit daft to say 4 or 5 games into his Rangers career, he has to get a goal, but I think it will do him the world of good. It gets him off and running, and I think it shows the fans here this guy can score goals. Hopefully he will score. We need a lot more to come from him. I thought overall his performance was good. A nice wee moment in the first half, combined with Cantwell and Matondo. A lovely wee flick, showed his vision, showed a bit of quality and a bit of confidence on the ball as well. Not afraid to try things. Those wee types of flicks, they're not always going to come off. Here, if you try them and they don't come off, you leave yourself open and people might give you a hard time. But when they do come off, Matondo could actually have done better with the move. I could actually have found Silva again, and that if that had ended up in a goal, what a great goal it would have been. But I think that moment just shows that he's got that vision. He's got that lovely touch. There's definitely something there. He's definitely a good player, as the manager said. I know you asked about it post match, the press conference. There's more to come from him. The more he gets accustomed to the teammates, the style of play, it's easy to forget he's only been here a month. For a lot of that time, Rangers weren't even playing games of football. The games he has had, not really that indicative in terms of like the Martin game, also the debut here against Kelly. Can't take too much from that one. I think this is probably the game you can take most from in terms of Silva. And for me, I was certainly impressed.
There was someone was speaking to someone at halftime, and they were saying someone else had texted them, or they were disagreeing about Silva, and the disagreement was the texter saying, "I just think he needs to do a bit more." To which the reply was, "He's played about 2 seconds." Do you know what I mean? But again, because he's been here for a month, and understandably, listen, I think understandably people that Rangers squad to be stronger, Chris, and I think you can simultaneously think that Rangers had a good window in the circumstances, and the circumstances of the fact that they've had to, through their own mistakes, change the recruitment model. But still say, is there enough goals yet? We don't know. Is that front 6 options-wise going to win you the league? We don't know. But then, simultaneously say I think the business that they've done has been good, and it was I thought an interesting performance all around from Silva. Fabio Matondo, who's just done a press conference, and it's worth watching. Often player press conferences aren't always the most interesting, I say with the YouTube views at the back of my mind, because you want people to go and watch them. But he asked him about Clement's man management. I thought first on his performance, he had good bits and he had bad bits, but overall good because of his goal. I think the task for Matondo, and I wrote a bit of a long piece on Matondo's dribbling a few months ago, where I was kind of saying that the performance that I think actually gave him the best chance of making an impact to Rangers this season was against Morton in the Cup, which was that game that was not a great game.
No, it wasn't a classic.
Not one you'd watch back. But the reason was because anyone who was at that game will remember he was probably Rangers' best player on that day, and against the back 5, against limited space, he was able to make chances a lot. He hit the byline. He wasn't that predictable. He was too quick for people on the outside, which gave him room on the inside. The point being that the best wingers in the world, and I'm not saying Fabio Matondo is one, but if you're looking at how you, as a winger, get space and create chances against a deep defence, you have to vary your approach. You can't always cut in like he did for that goal. And he did hit the byline a few times, which maybe earns him a little bit of space. I actually thought the dynamic between him and Barisic for the first 30 minutes wasn't great, because, and you saw increasingly as the game wore on, Barisic actually moved inside the pitch a lot more frequently, but that's not his game. That's not natural. And he kind of clogged up that space when there wasn't much space at all, instead of maybe moving inside and taking a man away and isolating Matondo. So to go back to the press conference, Matondo spoke about Clement's man management, how he's got everyone believing in the same vision. Clement had a hug and a word with him, as we see him do with all his players coming off the pitch, and then even in the press conference as well, you can see then the importance he places on his relationship with players. But I guess just on Matondo, Chris, probably a step in the right direction, where he is still going to frustrate people. I thought he slowed it down too much of that move you referenced with Cantwell and Silva. But again, Rangers will need him. Clement is banking on him to make an impact between now and the end of the season, and hopefully that goal, which he said it took a deflection, I'm still claiming it as mine, and sometimes you just have to try things. Hopefully that goal is a sign of things to come for Clement, that he can continue to try and replace Sima, who Rangers are still going to be missing for a while.
There's a moment just after the goal, players are celebrating. I noticed the manager standing, looking down at the squad. He put his hands down by his side, and also couldn't see what he was saying. You do wonder if it's just a case of, well, where's that been for the previous 45 minutes or so? Why couldn't you have done that before now? Why don't you do that more often? Because that type of move, yes, it did take a deflection, but that type of move is what Matondo can bring to the side. You want him to be direct, you want him to be head up, taking on defenders, committing defenders, and getting shots away. I do wonder if he'd been on our side, the manager, as I see what he was saying, if it would just have been, like, just go and do that more often. That's what you've got in your locker. I don't know if it's a belief thing, if it's a confidence thing, but he can do it. We need to see it more often. As I say, the loss of Sima is huge from Rangers. You're taking a lot of pace, you're taking a lot of attacking threat, you're taking a lot of goals out the side. It's going to have to be replaced. If it's going to be replaced, Matondo is most likely. Now, I thought Cortés came on, I'm sure we'll speak about him. I thought he came on and looked bright, he looked sharp. Now, it's a lot to say you're going to replace Abdallah Sima when the boy's just in the country, and he's just in the team. I don't think we can expect that much from him. If he does, brilliant, and what a bit of business that will prove to be. But in terms of the Sima replacement, it's going to need to be Matondo. We need to see that from him more. As you say, he will frustrate people. He's just that type of player. He's a very frustrating figure at times. But I think people only get frustrated because they see those wee flashes, they see what he can do, and it's just a case of that actually happening. It's happening more often.
Who scored the third goal? Todd Cantwell. And that was the type of goal which I think he should be scoring in this game.
He should do. Speaking of players that to do things more often, Todd Cantwell should be doing that more often.
Yeah, and I think that's the task from Chris. And listen, I think since he's moved to that number 10 position, he's had a couple of bad games. Wasn't great in the Old Firm, but he has also made an impact. I think he's at that stage of being a Rangers player when you're one of the better players where. And again, when you're a creative player, where you've impressed initially, then you need to kick on and really do it so consistently, and the scrutiny is really on you. And I think that's where he remains at the moment. It was interesting with the celebration as well, away in the corner where he kind of puts hands over his ears, I think, from the PA picture. I don't think anyone will mind that if he continues to score goals like that, because for me, that's what he's... Cantwell's a player who... He's quite a confusing player sometimes because you're trying to work out what's his best asset. And I actually think his best asset is when he's in busy areas of the pitch, kind of solution finding and getting his way out of problems quickly and basing his touches off defenders. And what he did there brilliantly for the goal, which is receive on the back foot, turn in one motion quicker than anyone can react to, play the pass, but then continue his run into the box and finish. A good goal, something he needs to do more often. And you could say, I guess, for all in different ways, all three of the goal scorers, they probably all needed that type of goal today in this type of game. And no least Cantwell, who, again, that move probably summed up what Clement's trying to do with the width on the right. McCausland plays a really good cutback, and we shouldn't miss that out. But a good finish from Cantwell, which secured the points, which were already really secure. It
would have been a very Rangers thing to do to not win today, and to make life more difficult than it should have been after the result up at Pittodrie. There was also huge expectation, huge pressure on Rangers to come here and get the job done. They've done it as straightforward as you like, really professional, really solid. No, I don't think there's any huge standouts, but nobody stunk the place out. It was just one of those performances. Everyone turned up, does their job. Everyone can go home happy. And it's that type of performance we're going to need more of. There will be other occasions like this over the course of the season where it's just about getting the job done. And I think that they can take a lot. Yes, it might only be Livingston at Ibrox, but I think they can take a lot from it because there was that extra pressure on them. This team do still have that question to answer. Do they have the mental fortitude? Do they have the bottle, if you like, to get big results when it matters? Can they capitalise? So often in recent seasons, we've seen Rangers sides unable to capitalise. Or whenever Celtic have opened the door for them, they then can't walk through it. And yes, it might only be Livingston at Ibrox, but I think in its own way, it was an important result. And as I say, for all the guys that contributed to it, all three goal scorers, big afternoons for them. So hopefully they all take their fair share of confidence from it, individually and collectively. And Tuesday night now can't come quick enough.
Yeah, definitely. Any other business before we wrap up? Cortez, good to see him getting minutes. Probably can't take much away. Looked pretty direct. The game was in a bit of a it was a bit of a kind of last 10 minutes of five-a-side for the last half an hour, wasn't it? Where you thought Rangers might go and add another couple, but they didn't. There was a guy behind me who had a bet on for Rangers to win 3-0, who was screaming at Rangers to play the ball back to Butland repeatedly for the final 20 minutes. So enjoyed that. Cortez, anything else? Anything that I'm missing? Anything from the press conference?
I think the only other thing the manager, as a reference, I thought was interesting was actually Jack Butland saying, he's perhaps unhappy that he was just quiet, but happy he was just quiet. But he did mention that having that presence, having someone of his standard just to keep things. Yeah. It would be easy for Rangers to kind of let the standards drop the second half. We've seen that in games like this before. You know the game's won at 2-0. I don't think Rangers really dropped off second half. They were still intent there. They're still trying to get forward, still trying to score more goals. And I think that actually starts from the back, because if you've got a figure like Butland, we know he's maybe not as funny in some of his vocals as Alan McGregor was back in the day, but he certainly drives the same standard. He certainly holds people to account in the same way. I thought it's interesting the manager just keep dropping that in, because it just gives you that insight into. He mentioned the spirit and the camaraderie in the dressing room, and you can imagine Butland being a big figure in that.
Right, I think that'll do us. We will be back on Monday. Obviously, it's the day before the Aberdeen game, isn't it? So the game's coming thick and fast. Going to have loads of coverage for you on the Rangers Review as ever. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel and you watch it, it's totally free. It really helps us if you like and subscribe. Please do that if you watch the videos for free. You can join the YouTube members section, which again gives you lots of extra videos, press conference breakdowns, tactical stuff, lots more, always more conversation points to delve into a little bit deeper on the member section, and of course the website, as you can see on the ticker below, the link in the description as well. If you want all your Rangers coverage, whether it's tactical stuff, press conference, interviews, news. We're out the transfer window, but there's always transfer stuff going on. There's always something happening. As Crystal testified to.
There's always news. There's always things happening here.
Yeah, always something happening. Do go and subscribe as well. But until then, thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks to Chris for joining me, and we'll speak to you on Monday morning. Bye for now.